Heyo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app today and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome into Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm Sean Anderson, the host of the CHGO White Sox podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. And alongside me is the full CHGO White Sox crew. We got Vinnie Duber to the far left. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. And the man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Another year around the sun. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. How'd it feel? Birthday yesterday.
It was
Celebrating
good.
At the tailgate. I know we talked yesterday, but
yeah, the tailgate was awesome. We had a steak flight later at a place called Artango up there in, I think that is North Center, Ravenswood. Great place. Got 15 ounces of steak to myself and did 3 different steaks from Argentina. It was delicious stuff. So one of the best birthdays I've ever had.
mercy.
Because, and also
because of the steak, not because of seeing us.
the steak, that party we had, and then the emergence of Justin Fields. I tell you what.
There you go. 178 yards is a nice.
We got a
present for you.
quarterback.
Yes, you do. And hey, we got best regards from Serbia. So Dragan,
Barak?
Barak.
Just call him Barak.
I think it's a
Barak.
CH sound at the
I believe
end.
it's Baric.
Look at you.
Baric?
Yeah.
All right,
He
look
already
at you.
knows.
Baric, hello, Dragan. Go Sox, and best regards from Serbia. So thank you very much. And we do have some White Sox news to talk about today. We have the White Sox declining Josh Harrison's option for 2023. Sad revs for Josh Harrison. We're also talking about Liam Hendriks. A huge closer deal was signed. Edwin Diaz is returning to the Mets for $102 million. So maybe it's the perfect time to unload Liam Hendriks' contract. And then finally, we're going to grade Reynaldo Lopez because he was very good in 2022. And if they're going to trade Liam Hendriks, he will have to be very good in 2023.
You're really sinking your teeth into the whole they're going to trade Liam Hendriks thing. Why would they trade Liam Hendriks?
Well, I think we'll talk about it when the topic comes up. But, I mean, Edwin Diaz just got paid about $20 million a year, and Liam Hendriks costs about $15 million.
So the White Sox currently have a better closer for less money.
Yes,
Okay.
which is a good thing. But like Josh Nelson said, they used him 3% of the time last year. Just a lot of wasted money. Are the White Sox good enough as an 81-81 team to need that good of a closer? It's a different. It's a later topic.
We'll get to it when we get to it. Yes.
Let's get to the more pressing
meat on
news
that bone. Let's go.
in Josh Harrison.
15
it's a
ounces
tease.
of steak on that bone.
And yeah, you were right. Barack. So very nice. Barach. There's the what's it called? The emphasis.
It's like on the Bulls,
Emphasis
like
on
Goran
the
Dragic.
Syllable. I failed second grade. What's it called? Phonics. So it's not my strong suit here. But anyways, as Vinny tweeted out earlier, Sox officially pick up Tim Anderson's option for the 2023 season and decline Josh Harrison's option for the 2023 season. And as Vinny says, Harrison's option's a relatively affordable $5.5 million, though as a positive presence as he was, he didn't overly impress. You went through the numbers of the players that were better than Josh Harrison, but does it come down to what he did in 2022, or is it just fixing the 2023 roster? Is just Josh Harrison not that important to the White Sox 26-man roster in 2023?
I think it's a lot of different things. Josh Harrison was not great. I don't think he was a little bit above average defensively, a little bit below average offensively. Not terribly impressive, really, in either facet. When you look at the numbers, certainly he had some moments that stood out on both sides of the ball. And listen, nobody's going to argue this. A very positive presence in the clubhouse, exactly the kind of the person that you want all 26 guys on that roster to be. But when it comes to the production, not really there offensively or defensively. You take that into account with exactly what you said. We've been talking about it for months now. The roster's a little stuck in place in a lot of places. Second base was not one of those places, and I think it's probably the easiest position on the field for the White Sox, other maybe than that fifth starter spot, to just go out and make change, because it's not going to be easy to make a lot of change when you look at everybody else on the field. People are kind of entrenched there. And so, and on purpose. The White Sox did that on purpose. So if you're going to go out and try to improve this lineup, improve this team, second base is an opportunity to do that. That being said, it's not going to be easy to go out and find that slam dunk insert here, and it's an obvious upgrade guy. I don't really know how many there are across baseball just to begin with. And then you're talking about the White Sox being able to actually acquire that player, be it with money on the free agent market or with what we've probably all agree is a difficult farm system to make a big trade work. So now they made the decision, and now the hard part begins, going and finding the upgrade that they need to find to validate the fact that they just cut Josh Harrison loose.
Yeah, and I think they have a lot of options within the organization which could do the same, if not better things than Josh Harrison's $5 million. Much cheaper. I mean, you're already paying Lurie Garcia. That's a sunk cost. He might give you the same effort as Josh Harrison on the field. You got Lenny Sosa, you got Sanchez, you got Romy Gonzalez. So you got the same player there.
Danny Mendick,
some fine type of options there. If you go with one of those guys, then I would think the White Sox would have to upgrade somewhere else so that second base position can just be the weak link. Because you can't go into the season with one of those 4 people and then not solve the corner outfield positions with a slam dunk acquisition. As second baseman, as Vinny has said, there's not a lot of people at second base throughout the major leagues. And if they are good, they're staying on their team. So there's very few options out there for the White Sox. But for Josh Harrison to leave this ball club, it's fine. $5 million is something they could spend on another player. I think you can get more value out of that player than what Josh Harrison brought. I enjoyed him. I know my guy Steven, who's our producer, thought he could hustle a little bit more. Instead of revving it up and high stepping into second base, could have actually went to third.
You mean run instead?
Look at my guy,
That'd be
Steven.
great, right?
Old man Steven, 29 years old.
Steven wants to see so many outs at third base. That's what he wants to see. Because at least they tried to get there, right, Steven?
Damn right they did.
The outs at home weren't enough. He wanted them at third base, too. JaxO23 dropping, I don't know if he was meant to drop 2 super chats here, but he did drop 2 super chats. Thank you very much, Jaxo. He said, we need to trade for either Correa or Bogarts and move TA to second base. We'll talk a little bit about moving TA to second base, but let's just jump into the Correa or Bogarts thing. You won't have to trade for him because both of those guys are free agents.
And that was what he changed in the second super chat. He switched.
Oh, we need to sign. Okay,
yeah.
You didn't need to edit it. We would have figured it out. But thank you, Jaxo, for the double super chat there. For shortstop, yes, as Jaxo mentioned, signing Correa or Bogarts is a possibility. Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, Dansby Swanson, and Elvis Andrus are the available shortstops. You could also throw there Jose Iglesias as well. But do we see the White Sox even considering moving Tim Anderson off shortstop?
I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
And I think the main reason is probably he's never done anything but shortstop before.
Exactly.
I don't want to bring in the fact that there's something that TA couldn't do, because it seems like whenever we say there's something that TA can't do, he goes and does it to prove everybody wrong. But this is a guy who's never played anything but shortstop, not only as a major leaguer but as a minor leaguer as well. That being said, the same things applies to Elvis Andrus, and we might have been getting close to seeing Elvis Andrus play some second base at the end of last year. I just think it's a big difference when you're talking about taking guys you already have and putting them into a combination to try and win a division at the very end of the season. It's another thing entirely to go into a season putting your hopes on of a World Series on one of your everyday players not having played the position you're asking them to play before. That to me seems really risky, and I don't think it would be wise to sign Elvis Andrus to play second base. I don't think it would be wise to push Tim Anderson over to second base for that reason of just you seem to be putting yourself at a disadvantage, or at least increasing your odds against winning baseball.
Right? Yeah, and I think too, if you sign one of those guys, as Jaxo suggests, you might as well trade Tim Anderson. Like, moving him to second base, I don't know if it's going to be a success or failure, but you're already admitting that these guys are superior to what Tim brings to the table, and moving him to second I think would diminish his role, firstly, and secondly, he would have to learn the whole position in this offseason and spring training. No, I don't want that.
Well, here's a question, too. Is Tim Anderson at second base better than Josh Harrison at second base defensively at least?
No. Is he better than any of the people I just named defensively? Like, he's not that great this year at shortstop. Move that over to second base. I know shortstop's a little bit harder of a position, but you don't want the errors that Tim made at shortstop at second base. So, no. If you're going to be signing one of those guys, and don't get me wrong, you sign Correa or Bogarts if they're available and you want to, but then you have to move TA. You move them to either center field, which you already have a center fielder, or you move them off the team, which I don't think the White Sox would do because, as I said before, TA is the White Sox. The White Sox are TA.
He's cheap. Like, let's just call it what it is. He's making $12 million. Like, all of those guys are going to sign for $20 million more average yearly. I mean, so Tim Anderson is a cheap shortstop option who is an all-star. I have no idea why the Sox would move him off of shortstop to second base. And I know you shared the list of guys who were offensively both better offensively and defensively than Josh Harrison last year. And two of those names, Trevor Story and Marcus Semien, guys who were shortstops that moved to second base during this offseason. But I don't see the White Sox spending Marcus Semien money or Trevor Story money. And I think Aaron up here brought in the White Sox offense would be much better with Aaron Judge. Facts, correct. But I see that as more of a possibility. I see the White Sox signing Aaron Judge more possible or more realistic than the White Sox signing Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, and moving Tim Anderson off shortstop to second base. And I don't really think we should entertain that discussion too long.
And if you sign Aaron Judge, that could be it. That could be the offseason. And I think most White Sox fans would be like, we're good. We're aces. We got Aaron Judge in right. We got Aloy either playing left or DH. You got Andrew Vaughn coming back to some spot. Man, our offense is going to be stacked. We're going to be good to go. Yeah, you sign one of those Correa or Bogarts, you got a lot of problems. You just made another problem for your team. And so I don't think that is a thing. As I said before, Tim is more valuable to the White Sox than he is to other teams. You wouldn't get value back that Tim is a starting all-star shortstop for the American League. You wouldn't get the value that you usually are supposed to get. And as you said, he's relatively cheap as far as an all-star shortstop. $12 million, that's all? Baby, hit that button twice.
Right.
And I don't know. I think I see people talking about the internal options. I think, Herb, you talked about them a little earlier, too. Man, I don't know if you can go into your 2023 season if you're the White Sox with Romy Gonzalez or Lenine Sosa as your everyday second baseman. That seems to me to be you're just kind of throwing away a position. I mean, and again, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Those two guys showed flashes. Maybe they'd be fine. But if I'm in a planning mode, I want those guys to be the emergency options, not my number one choice. I mean, you can go out and find a second baseman that has a lot more major league experience than those guys that might not even have as high an upside as Lenine Sosa, but certainly can be counted on more reliably than him.
Right. Before we get into some of the other second base options, because I agree with you 100%. I don't think Romy or even Danny Mendick, even though he had his best career year, coming off an ACL surgery.
30 games too. I mean, that's such a small sample size.
Sanchez or Sosa.
Yeah, and even then, I think Lenine would be the one that would come up, but I don't think they trust him enough, and I don't even think it's like a Oscar Colas situation where he's fighting with Gavin Sheets to make the roster. I think just because it's not going to cost so much to go get a second baseman, right? We're talking about some of the guys that we'll talk about, like Colton Wong and stuff. Probably cost you like 10 to 12 million. I don't think it's going to break the bank here, where signing a guy like Brandon Nimmo will get to $20 million, and then plus once you're bringing that over 5 years, you're offering a $100 million contract, which we know the White Sox really don't love to do. But Elvis Andrus, I know you mentioned the idea of even moving Tim from second to or from short to second. Elvis Andrus, same thing, hasn't played second base a ton in his career, even in the minors. Do we expect a reunion? Because Elvis did seem to love his time in Chicago.
Same thing. No. The man's going to be 36 years old. You don't want to move him from a position that he's comfortable with, has played well with the White Sox last year, to another position where he would have to learn that position. I know probably doesn't seem that hard, but it's different. He's been doing a certain thing. With the Reeds, in the beginning of our show, we did a certain different sponsor. And then after a while, you kept on saying that sponsor. Mm-hmm. That is a force of habit. And I guarantee the same thing happens when you're playing shortstop. You get used to the steps. You get used to how many steps you need to take to release the ball. And you move to a different position on the other side of the field. It's going to be tough. It's going to be an adjustment period. And you don't want adjustment periods and learning on the job from a 36-year-old man. And then I'm sure that would affect his offensive performance, too. As we saw with Yohan Moncada when he played second base his first year as a White Sox. He said, I didn't like it. I'm a better third baseman. I feel like I'm a better player when I play third base. So I think that Elvis Andrus, I would just let him go. I'm just like, hey, man, it's been real. Appreciate you coming in. But we already have a shortstop, and we're not going to have you as our second baseman.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't think Elvis Andrus needs to come play second base for the White Sox.
Right.
You know, I mean, he said at the end of the year, we asked him, would you want to come back to the White Sox? Oh, sure, it was a great time here kind of thing. Would you come back to play second base for the White Sox? And his answer was basically, well, yeah, I'd be open to that if that's what it was. And I think the way that he played over the last, his time on the South Side, he probably earned himself a starting shortstop job somewhere in the majors. He can go play for, I'm sure he probably didn't love playing for the Oakland A's because they were not very good, but he could play for some sort of team that is of less caliber than what the White Sox are expected to be as their starting shortstop, a rebuilding team or a team that maybe is, a little lacking in the talent department. But Elvis Andrus can get some money to go play shortstop every single day for those teams and be a major league shortstop. Why would he have to settle for being a second baseman with the White Sox?
Go right up to Minnesota.
That's exactly what
Correa's hitting that button right now. I'm out.
He's a Minnesota Twin.
Yeah.
They're not spending that much money again on a shortstop, and he is just a veteran guy that will give you solid at bats. He is absolutely a Minnesota Twin. So
and
Elvis
he's going to kill
Andrus
us in the 12 games that they played this year.
Welcome to Minnesota. So let's go into some of the names that are out there on the second base market. Gene Segura has a club option. He was most recently with Philly. Colton Wong most recently with the Brewers also has a club option. Gene Segura is 33 years old. Colton Wong's 32. Adam Frazier, your guy, is a free agent most recently with Seattle. Josh Harrison just got his option declined by the White Sox. He's 34. Cesar Hernandez, White Sox legend. He's 32 years old, last with the Nationals. Rougned Odor, 29. He was last with the Orioles. And then Jonathan Villar, he had a cup of tea with the Cubs this year. Jose Peraza, former Red, he's 28. Hanser Alberto's got a club option. Chris Owings, these are the names that were listed by MLB.com. Any of those names stick out? We're obviously probably not going past Cesar Hernandez, I think, or even Josh Harrison. So Adam Frazier, Colton Wong, Gene Segura stick out to you?
Colton Wong sticks out to me. When we had Josh Nelson from Sox Machine in here last week, he pretty much talked him up, and I was like, hey, man, what you're talking about sounds exactly what the White Sox need, a guy that can hit home runs, can bat from the left side. And then last year, he was pretty bad defensively. I was like, man, he's already ready for his White Sox training. He's out here making errors for the first time in his career. He's like, oh, man, I'm about to be signed by the White Sox. So, yeah, he'll be relatively inexpensive, under $15 million, I'm guessing, and a guy that would solidify that second base spot with some little power and probably batting towards the end of the lineup, so you're not counting on Colton Wong to do great things. But I think as a left-handed hitter in that ballpark versus those teams, I think he can hit like 20 home runs, hit you something in the middle to twos and get on base at a 310, 320 clip. He'll be fine. I think nothing earth-shattering great, but I think he'll be fine where you say, okay, this is an acquisition, our last piece of an acquisition, like this will be our last guy on the roster where, if he hits, he hits. If he doesn't, cool, we're fine. We got other hitters on the team. But if he gives us what he gave people in Milwaukee, extra bonus.
It really depends. I think I go back to the thing that came to mind was when Rick Hahn was talking about the manager search, and it ended up being Pedro Grifol, and people were like, "Well, wait a minute, that's not a guy from a recent championship contending organization. That's a guy from the Royals." And Rick Hahn had said in the previous press conference before he introduced Grifol as the new manager that, listen, we got all these criteria, but maybe there's the person who has all of them doesn't exist. And I think when you're talking about second base, maybe the person you want to replace Josh Harrison and be an upgrade in all areas doesn't exist. And so you look at Colton Wong, would be a very big upgrade offensively, would be a huge downgrade defensively. And so the White Sox have to decide, is that okay? Because they're trying to improve defensively. Or you could look at someone like Jonathan Scope, who has a player option with Detroit. Not maybe not too likely to decline that, but
it's only $7.5 million. So I don't know if he feels that he wants to roll dice on himself, because his offense was terrible this year. So does he want to roll dice and see if he can get a deal out there for $7 million? As we said, the atmosphere for second baseman is that's a lackluster list right there with Adam Frazier, Colton Wong, and Jonathan Scope. Maybe he could steal $10 million. But also, I wouldn't be the person getting out of a $7.5 million deal, just like I wouldn't be the person getting out of a $13 million deal like AJ Pollock. I'm like, they could always trade me. That $7.5 million is going to be great to me.
And Scope was the best defensive second baseman in baseball this year. So, I mean, if the White Sox are like, all right, we're going to upgrade this defense, and this is how we're going to do it. Jonathan Scope, you can go hit 210 or whatever it was he hit this year, but you go play the best second baseman or the best second base in baseball. Well, then there you go. That's an upgrade. But I don't know if you're going to find that guy who is the huge upgrade in both areas over Harrison without making a trade of significance.
Right, and HL says Wong is typically very good defensively. Since 2020, though, moving over to Milwaukee, he has had an outs above average of -5. But the thing with Pedro Grifol, he talked about all the work he does in the offseason, trying to figure out all of these formulas, trying to improve Salvador Perez's framing. Maybe he does that with Colton Wong's defense. I'm not sure. And Jared also saying the one thing that continues to annoy me about Grifol not being from a winning franchise, I guess, but also this might be the guy that understands the AL Central the best. And if we look at history, the White Sox have 5 postseason series wins. Grifol with the Royals had 6. So, I mean, he's got more knowledge than the White Sox.
I know where you're coming from, Jared, and I paused at that too. But as Vinny has pointed out and Sean's pointed out, 2015 is not that far away. Mm-hmm. They won a World Series. They went to the World Series the year before that. And also, you could look at the White Sox looking at the Kansas City Royals said, I don't know if they don't win games, but goddamn it, those some bitches win games versus us. They find a way to get the job done. And if Pedro's part of that, trying to get them prepared for the game and how they would beat the White Sox in a specific game, I want that on my team. I don't know how you can watch that press conference last week and not get jazzed as a White Sox fan. I am a big-time pessimist about this organization, big-time detractor of Rick Hahn, but he hit a home run on this one. Initially, like my initial thoughts, home run hire Pedro Grifol. He speaks the talk. I think he comes highly recommended by many different baseball people. And so I would be shocked if Pedro Grifol was not a good manager. I am hyped for the season because of what he's going to do. I'm usually not a manager's guy, but this guy's got me in.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what could happen with him. I'm excited that he's keying in on Yohan Moncada. I know every White Sox fan wants to see that guy turn around his career and be the guy that we saw in 2019.
Isn't he the key to this next season? Because we know he's going to be here next year.
Yohan?
Yeah, and the year after. Like, he's the key to the White Sox actually winning going forward.
You could say that about Luis Robert, too. If Luis Robert gives you 150 games and, he gives you 8 WAR. He hasn't done that before. That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah, but you get the lefty, switch-hitted bat, but the lefty bat mostly of Yohan Moncada, him getting on base via the walk 80% of the time. We saw that. We saw that in 2021 where people still said he didn't have a good year. But as I have pointed out, he was a top 7 WAR third baseman that year with the year he had in 2021 where people were like, oh, Yohan didn't hit enough home runs. That is the guy I need back. And if he does that, and if Pedro Grifol somehow unlocks that guy, the White Sox go far.
It seems to me maybe that the answer to second base is a trade, though. And we heard Rick Hahn say, excuse me, that the trade market might end up being more fruitful than the free agent market. And obviously, you got to wait to see how those markets each play out. But judging just by availability, if you're not really jumping at any of these guys that we're talking about here as free agents or potential free agents, trade market might be the way to go. And there are some teams out there with some depth at the position.
Yeah, the names are coming up. Some of the names in the chat at least. Jazz Chisholm from Miami. I know that there was some rumors or some buzz that they might move him. I'd be shocked if they did just because he's so young, energetic, and yeah, it would be a lot. On BaseballTradeValues.com, I have Jazz Chisholm being received by the White Sox, but the Marlins would get Garrett Crochet, Colton Montgomery, and Jose Rodriguez, and I don't think that they're even giving up Montgomery, so it doesn't really seem like they'll be able to get a deal done, and I don't know, like I would be surprised if they moved on from Chisholm.
Yeah, and I like thumbs ups Kevin's suggestion in the comments, Hendriks plus for Jazz Chisholm. I don't know what the Marlins would have with Liam Hendriks.
Right,
why would they get them? It'll be that old meme where they got the Lamborghini parked next to the shack. They're a good team, but why would you have an $18 million closer? And he'll be getting $15 million the year after that too, because the deal would automatically vest on the Miami Marlins. I get it; it's a good deal, but it wouldn't make sense in that regard.
The guy who played second base, or a lot of second base, you should say, after Chisholm got hurt, by the way, ended up leading the majors in stolen bases. Joe Birdie.
Oh, I remember Joe Birdie.
Joe or John?
John.
B-R-G-O-N, though.
I had the first 2 letters, Steven.
Bertie?
Yeah, B-E-R-T-I.
Yeah.
It's like Herbert T.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that the Dodgers have a plethora of young second basemen too,
Coming up,
but like.
yep.
Do we think they go young? Like, what kind of profile do we expect?
The White Sox.
Yeah, what profile do we expect the White Sox to look for? Are they looking for youth? Are they looking for a similar Elvis Andrus bump of competent veteran nature? Stephen Bardo, Super Chat saying, hearing those names makes me want to throw up. Thank you for the Super Chat, Stefan.
We need a sound effect to go along with that emoji next time, Steven, I think.
Oh, we also have a Super Chat from Eli. My bad. Eli has a Super Chat from us as well. He said he's in Chicago. Are you guys going to the tailgate this weekend? You're not.
I will not be in this hemisphere.
Yeah, you're busy.
I've gone to the first two. We'll see. I'm so hyped about Justin Fields. I might want to just be at the house to watch the game. But, I've always enjoyed these tailgates at CHGO Bears throws. It's awesome.
I will be there. I'll be at my first one. We got the Bears and Lions tailgate. This one starts at 8:30. You can buy tickets at allchgo.com, also in the description as well. But I'll be there out in 38-degree weather at my first CHGO tailgate. Right. I'm a real Chicago, and I can handle it. Sunday, November 13th, all food and drinks included with the ticket, and it's a fun time, huge blast out there, and we've had some great crowds for the first two, so
Absolutely.
it should be fun.
And if
for
Eli's out there, I might have to go because the man
Right.
traveled all the way from Israel to come out here and see the best city in the world.
Absolutely, and shout out to Jaxo again for another Super Chat. I think they should sign an elite pitcher. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah, there's the rumors that the White Sox might be interested in a Carlos Rodon reunion. Jacob deGrom's out there. I don't see them spending big money or even hundreds of millions of dollars this year on a single free agent.
Why do I want to trade Eloy Jimenez, Sean?
Because he's hurt all the time.
Why would we get Jacob deGrom? He's great when he pitches, but time and time again, the man is hurt. I don't want to sign all the money that's going to go to Jacob deGrom, and it's going to be like $40 million per year. I don't want that. And Carlos Rodon has shown the last 2 years that he could stay healthy, and it's not for nothing that he was raised here. And we said a mistake was made last year, and I'm sure Rick, and I don't know if he had some help from other people in the front office or the owner, messed up last year by not offering him a qualifying offer. You can rectify that by signing a big-time deal for Carlos Rodon, but know that the Texas Rangers are going to be in that bidding war, and they're going to drive that price up big time. That it's going to make it very uncomfortable for the White Sox and other teams to get into that market.
Yeah, the Rangers are going to go to Carlos Rodon and probably say, hey, do you never want to pitch in the playoffs?
He's like, bet.
I'll take the money. Yeah, I don't think Carlos.
You want
at this
every
point
October
cares.
off for the rest of your contract?
Hey, Carlos can go hunt. And I think him and Ashley were in Rome this year.
Yeah, Zach
winter.
Sherwood took a picture of him.
There you go. He can go spend his time doing other things with millions and millions and millions of dollars. One name that would pop up if you are looking for pitchers, the White Sox had Chris Bassett before left the organization, $34 years old, just declined a $19 million option. But if the White Sox offer like 65 for 3, I could see him accepting that. He's been great though over the past couple seasons. A 3.31 ERA since 2019, an ERA plus of 1.23. I just don't see them spending at the top of the market.
He declined a $19 million deal. That's rolling dice.
You think so?
Oh,
He's been good.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Real good for the past 3 years.
But he had to wait till the market settles. He's not the top guy, so he would have to wait until all the people like Rodon and like deGrom, Kershaw sign, and then he was like, do we want Chris Bassett, 34 years old, to sign a 3-year deal or 4-year deal for more than $20 million each of those years?
Looking at the options, though, like he has the least amount of question marks. Rodon, Kershaw, deGrom, Eovaldi. All of those guys have injury issues. And even though like Eovaldi hasn't had a ton recently, you could probably argue Bassett's been better than him. Then Tyler Anderson, great with the Dodgers, but that's a great organization. What would he be?
Is Martin
anywhere
Perez
else?
still out there, or is he signed with the Rangers?
Perez is still. He's an option. I mean,
Okay.
it's a left-hander if you're looking for a lefty. I don't think he even answered the second base question. Are we looking for a veteran or are we looking for a younger guy? Whatever.
I mean, I think, let's put it this way. I think proven and reliable fits where the White Sox are right now. They're trying to win. That being said, you might be able to go pick the second or third guy off of a depth chart with another team and not have to give up a boatload like you would trying to go get a veteran. I mean, I look at some of these teams, think about Tampa Bay. They've always got 100 guys that can play every position, and they had 3 or 4 guys play a lot of second base this year. What about the Cardinals? Cardinals got Cardinals call somebody up, plays second base, and like is one of the most valuable offensive second basemen out there. Brendan Donovan, I don't know if anybody who's never watched a Cardinal game ever even knows who that is. Certainly, I wasn't in that camp.
That happens every year with them. It's like,
exactly.
Oh, some dude I've never heard of is going to come up play for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Cool, he's hitting 30 home runs.
Yep. I mean, because Tommy Edmonds great at playing all sorts of positions. They got Arenado over at third base. There's not many places on the infield left to put all these guys that they're always calling up. So, maybe explore some of that. The Yankees have a ton of infield prospects. Maybe it's time they move on from Gleyber Torres, who, was I think a 114 weighted runs or OPS plus kind of guy. So, there are options out there for a trade. It's just you gotta find these areas where you're not going to go get one of the best second basemen and say, all right, well, what do you want? Well, the White Sox don't have the prospects to give up. You got to go pick off some of these teams that have some depth, and maybe it means trading from your area of depth. We talked about the bullpen last week, but it maybe drives the price down just a bit.
Yeah, and one thing too with now I'm blanking on the name. Cool. Herman Rome has a super chat. Eloy equals Manny and will not come off of it. Trade at your own risk. I don't think Herb's the only one you got to worry about.
He's talking Manny Ramirez, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of us think that trading Eloy would be very silly.
Guilty. Let's tell you about Shady Rays.
When it happens and he gets traded and he hits the 50 home runs, I'll sit here and take my L.
Proudly. Shady Rays, we got to let you know, sometimes I forget where I'm going to go in this show, but thankfully we have Shady Rays because they make reliable products. They never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. They are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle, whether you're going to the Outback in Australia, whether you're going to be surviving the cold tundra of Chicago, Shady Rays has you covered. And the best part about Shady Rays, they have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear, lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. If you drop them in a lake, off a cliff, into the Great Barrier Reef, maybe what's it called, an errant cricket shot, shattered them, they'll replace them, no questions asked. And Shady Rays customers seem to agree with this fantastic protection program and the quality of the sunglasses, as they have over 200,000 5-star reviews. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is running their deepest deals of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com, also known as buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs for as low as $54 and redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all in their newest, best shades. What are you guys laughing at?
Yeah, it's Kevin talking about me looking like a blues legend.
You got to start busting out the harmonica.
Harmonica, guitar. What do you play?
Probably harmonica.
Okay.
I mean, there was the old joke about South Park. Any black man can play the bass immediately. He's like, no, I can't. Just pass him like dun 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 dun.
Well, you can.
I probably can.
You could see Herb cut it up at a jazz club near you by going to the Game Time app. They're the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, Herb's jazz concerts, other concerts, and shows. If you ever dreamed of sitting at...
Nobody leaves without playing the blues.
If you ever saw it...
You know what that's from?
Nope.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Someone, what was the guy I was
Chicago
wearing?
classic.
I know the movie. I know they had the diamond building in that one. What was the guy you referenced with the hat? It was the old 70s reference. I had that hat on after I came back from Vegas. It's like Skeet.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There was a
Skeet Allred.
Yeah, there was a hat, and you guys were like, "Oh, you look like." Anyways, there was somebody who was like, "How do you guys not know Skeet or something?" And I was like, I'm not from the 70s. It was that one like detective. It was a bad detective.
Oh,
movie.
Shaft.
Shaft.
Yeah,
You don't know Shaft.
Why were you calling Shaft Skeet?
Because it's I don't know. It's an S.
Oh man.
Anyways, I don't know Adventures in Babysitting.
Hey,
and I don't know
Sean, shut your mouth.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm just talking about Shaft.
Just talking about Shaft.
Ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could? Whether it be at the 50-yard line of Justin Fields' next game on November 13, courtside at a Bulls game, behind home plate of none of the baseball games that are going on, but next year, and floor seats at a concert, it's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you never thought you could buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Bulls, Blackhawks, or Bears tickets. I didn't realize Steven was eating during the show. Created by fans for the
He's
fans.
eating like a sandwich the size of a football.
It's huge. I mean, that's bigger than your head.
Is it bigger now?
No, it's the same
what she
size.
said.
Well,
Could you come in front of the camera while I do this read and just hold it next to your head?
Family show.
Oh, boy. Created by the fans for the fans, and it guarantees the lowest price. If you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description, and you can join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all of your favorite events.
That's Steven.
And here's Steven. Steven usually makes a McSteven, as he calls. It's bigger than his head. Yeah, I mean, it goes from chin to hair, which
It's
is
less
which is
about these, like, just in general, the size of the sandwich is impressive, which it is. It's a fine-sized sandwich. But to just be sitting here doing the show, and then out of the corner of your eye, Steven's over there producing and just takes a giant gallon-sized Ziploc bag, like, out of nowhere, and is just chowing down on a massive sandwich while Sean's doing an ad read. Just nonchalant.
It's not distracting at all.
gotta do what you gotta do,
Gotta feed that engine.
Herman's following up with another super chat, and thank you guys for all the ton of super chats. And hey, we got Wayne popping up asking about what about Elvis playing second base. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the show, but nice to see some of the old faces come back. And Herman too, coming with the super chat. Andrew Vaughn for Jazz Chisholm. Thoughts?
No.
It hurts.
I don't think they do it.
I don't think. Yeah.
The White Sox don't seem to want to trade Andrew Vaughn for anyone.
Well, and also, like, Andrew Vaughn doesn't have a position. I mean, that's a guy who's going to play first base, and, you know, you're hoping that he turns into a guy who puts up an OPS plus of, like, 130 every season. Jazz is playing middle infield and giving you that sort of power as well.
Herman, I like the thought process. As I've always said, trades got to hurt if they're going to be realistic. That hurts. I think that hurts a little too much for everybody's liking, because if you're a White Sox fan. I love Jazz Chisholm, but to lose out on Andrew Vaughn for Jazz Chisholm, I would wrestle with that, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I think for the remainder of the time, either of them would be a White Sox or a Marlin.
And you'd have to re-sign Jose Abreu at that point too. There'd be no other alternative, really.
You could just go with Gavin Sheets.
With Gavin Sheets at first base, yeah.
Teach Aloy how to play first base. As the big Andrew Vaughn truther on this show, I would say that I would do that deal in a heartbeat. I just don't think the Marlins would do it.
Wow, really?
Because of what Jazz brings to the table, numbers-wise?
Well, numbers-wise, and again, like, he has an actual position, and I think
he doesn't steal as many bases as John Birdie. We know that.
No, he does not. But still, I mean, what, he had 23 in 2021, 12 last year, and the White Sox too. Like, you know,
I know
stolen bases really in their game, but you're putting in speed. You're putting in a guy who can play up the middle and hit 20 bombs. I'll take him.
This is the test. Steven, have you ever seen Jazz Chisholm hit a home run and what he does at home plate with just the Euro step?
Yeah. When he's rounding third, coming toward
as the oldest 29-year-old ever, would you?
The oldest 29.
Would you be like, oh man, you got to hustle that home run out?
Hey, if he's hitting home runs, he could go as fast or slow as he wants. I don't care.
All right. I would Steven's in.
If I were a professional baseball player, when I hit a home run, I would do the Euro step and I would want a Euro waiting for me at home plate.
Joe McEwing pulling out a Euro.
Exactly. As you round third. Oh,
just like carving it, just
exactly
fresh.
right off the spit there.
I mean, how many bat boys do they have? I mean, I always thought it was just one, but I mean, you got, you know, a guy down third baseline, first baseline. You got one on the dugout. You just can't have a Euro boy.
You could have a Euro or a Euro person.
Euro man, yeah.
Euro person. It's not gender specific.
No, you're right. You're right about that.
Alex is shitting on your dreams right there. He's a platoon player. Jazz Chisholm, platoon bat. Similar injury history to Aloy.
Okay. Well, we're not talking about Jazz Chisholm today. I didn't do enough research on Jazz. My bad. But let's go into Liam Hendriks because we did want to. What are you doing? You're pulling out a hat.
No.
Oh, you got your helmet there.
I wasn't doing anything in particular. I can put it on if you want.
Let's go to Liam Hendriks and talk about his trade value because again, Edwin Diaz signing a $102 million deal with the Mets, a 5-year deal. The one thing that I want to talk about before we get into Liam Hendriks and the trade, like, just thank God baseball's back and working as it normally should be. If you make a fair offer to a player, they'll accept it. We don't have to deal until, you know, the top free agents going all the way until February. And I thought, too, a record-setting deal for a closer, I thought that would take more negotiation. The Mets and Edwin Diaz got down to business and got it done, which I am such a huge fan of.
I think that's a very unique situation where you have the richest person in baseball, Steve Cohen, as the owner of the Mets, not messing around. He's like, here's the money. Do you want it? And Edwin's like, yeah, hit that button already. I'm done. Yes, you're not messing around with me. And that's good to see. But there are not a lot of owners. One of the reasons I've heard that Jerry Reinsdorf didn't want Steve Cohen in the fraternity is because of things like this. He does things like this where he signs the richest deal of or any reliever in history. This is why. And so I would love that owner, but I don't think there are 29 other owners like, yeah, we're going to do that too. He's going to be one of one.
Mets fans got to be thrilled because this is what fans always want. They just want, I don't care how much money it takes, give all the money to the players that I want on the team, and I will be happy. So Mets fans got to be happy. Whether that makes it a smart signing or not, who knows? But he made the fans happy by doing that. Herb, I also like that you talk about all negotiations in terms of deal or no deal. Hit the button.
That's what I'm doing. That's all I'm doing.
But that's you're strictly thinking that you got Howie Mandel standing there telling Edwin Diaz, deal or no deal, and
I'm hitting. Yeah.
And Steve Cohen's up in the shaded glass.
Steve Cohen's
just
up in the booth. Yeah, right.
Think about
Edwin Diaz's family's cheering him on.
Yeah.
Isn't Steve Cohen's net worth $16 billion?
Yeah,
this is a drop in the bucket. And we look at it, it's like, man, $100 million, that's a lot of money. And Steve Cohen's it's like $20.
But here's the thing.
Good.
The thing is that if you judge free agent signings based on how quickly they get done, fans are always thrilled when they happen in as soon as possible, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then that's how they get done. You push all the money that you can think of up in front of them and let them sign it. You got to be when it's being aggressive in free agency doesn't mean you're the first one to blow a phone call in. It means you shove more money than they can think they could possibly get from anybody else in their face, and they have no option but to say no.
It's not about signing their brother-in-law or their workout partner and offering them $285 million in options. It's about offering them $300 million and making them the top player that they want to be.
And from that situation where the White Sox were kind of pussyfooting with Manny Machado, they learned their lesson, and as Vinny said, push the chips in front of Yasmani Grandal, and he's like, yes, Jesus, give me that
and they
money.
tried to do the same with Zach Wheeler, too. And
he was like, my wife doesn't like Chicago,
right.
Or she likes Philadelphia
more. She likes
more.
Jersey better, one of the two.
Why?
Took less money, too.
Yeah. Divorce her immediately. She's got bad skills in choosing cities.
But let's talk about some of the teams that might be interested in a player like Liam Hendriks. Again, the White Sox only used him about 3% of the time, and shout out to Josh Nelson when he was on the show last week for telling us that stat. But what teams might need a Liam Hendriks? I immediately thought to the Dodgers after the failed Kimbrel trade, and Josh Nelson brought that up as well when he was on our show last week. But then the Atlanta Braves. If the Dodgers are doing something, you'd think the Braves want to do something, and Kenley Jansen is a free agent. He made 1 year, $16 million. Liam Hendriks will be cheaper than that, and you could argue that Liam Hendriks is probably a better player than Kenley Jansen. You could argue it. What do we make of those two teams? Any other teams stick out to you for possible trade fits?
The Phillies make a difference there because David Robertson. I know they have internal options with Dominguez and Alvarado who are great, but they could use a person that's closing out games because in the NLCS, they had to take David Robertson out of that game and go to a starter and Roger Suarez to close that NLCS out. You need more assurity. Liam Hendriks, while he won the two reigning AL relievers of the year, he's pretty solid. He had a great year this year again. I think a team like the Dodgers, the Braves, the Phillies would be clamoring for that type of thing. And if all three of them are competing, you could drive the price up. Now, I don't want to trade Liam Hendriks. If this is our contention window, we need to push forward. I like the idea that Josh had, though, talking about the Dodgers, talking about them getting people back like relief pitchers or starting rotation guys because they're all clogged up in the Dodger system. But we've talked about this time and time again. Reliever and closer is a different animal. To find one and you got one in your contention window, you're good. There's no reason to trade him away if you already got your guy. Now, you could trade some of the guys below him, and there's a guy below him that we're going to be talking a little bit about in the next segment. Trade them away and get some type of valuable pieces back. But if you got Liam Hendriks, the two-time reigning AL reliever of the year, there's no reason to trade him unless they're blowing your socks off, literally.
No pun intended.
All puns intended. Yeah, why didn't Rick say that?
Oh my God, it was the biggest the biggest fail of the press conference in my opinion. But no, I agree with Alex. I think a team that really could use Liam Hendriks as the closer is the Chicago White Sox because they need a closer, and he's a very good one, maybe the best in baseball, or certainly one of them.
No one's arguing that, but I just think, especially when you say he might be the best closer in baseball, then the guy goes and signs for $20 million a year. That just makes that guy a steal.
That the White Sox have.
Right, but I think it's different where you look at the shortstop market and let's say Correa is going to be making $25 million a year, or you'd hope to. Yeah, right.
He made 30 this year.
All right,
right?
so he
35
making
this year,
$30 million.
right?
The difference between that and Tim Anderson is like two Tim Andersons. I mean,
Yes.
you could have two Tim Andersons there. The difference between like Edwin Diaz and Liam Hendriks, it's like $5 million, which could be, Colton Wong money right there. And I understand, like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know if the White Sox need that because, again, they're an 81-81 team. What are the expectations after a season like that?
The expectations for the White Sox, whether you want to agree that that's your prediction or not, but the White Sox are going to operate based on the expectations that they want to win the World Series in 2023. Why in the world would you create a closer problem for yourself?
Are you?
You are, because you've got an unproven guy no matter what. Like, Kendall Graveman closed out games for the Astros and the Mariners in 2021. Great. But do you want to roll dice with Kendall Graveman in the bottom of the ninth every single time and get the same results that you got from Liam Hendriks? I think it might work, but also, why would you do that? Why would you roll those dice?
You have the guy who might be the best closer in baseball. You are very confident, and a lot of other people, Sean, too, by the way, very confident in Reynaldo Lopez. Why don't you trade Reynaldo Lopez?
Because Reynaldo Lopez is younger and cheaper.
But he might not be able to do this.
but like, we know bullpen in general is just, very, very volatile. And I understand Liam Hendriks
is the exception to that rule.
Right, but how long is Liam Hendriks going to be on the South Side? Is it just 1 year? Is he going to be back in 2024? Yeah. Is that for sure and certain? They pick up that option, he's going to be back in 2025.
If he's Liam Hendriks, yeah.
If the White Sox are trying to win the World Series in 2023, why would you willingly go into that, to taking away the closer who could win you the World Series?
I don't know if a closer wins the World Series, and the
closer
White Sox
is going to be pitching the last outs of the World Series. That's for sure.
That's true, but also Chris Sale. I mean, we can look back in recent history. Chris Sale pitched the last out for the Red Sox in 2017. You don't need a closer to win the World Series.
You do need a closer to win the World Series.
You could ask, and it is a controversial thing that they did. But 2016 Cubs had Hector Rondon there. He was doing fine. And they're like, no, we need Aroldis Chapman, the guy who got arrested for domestic violence. We need him there to make our championship caliber team. Yeah, he struggled in the World Series, but he got some of those wins that they needed in the playoffs and took them over the top from being a good team, a great team, to being the World Series champions. I think you got a guy. Don't trade him unless you have another guy that you think profiles as the next guy. But that's also, as I talked with second base and moving Tim from short to second, you're going to have a person training on the job while you're in the contention window. It's going to be very hard to do that. Very hard. I love Raylo, and I love Kendall Graveman, but no.
Well, let's play this game. One closer had an ERA of 2.98 and a WHIP of 0.89. Mm-hmm. The other one had an ERA of 2.76 and a WHIP of 0.94. One allowed one home run, and the other one allowed, let me see,
a bunch.
4. So who would you rather take? The guy with a 4 home runs allowed, what's it called? 2.98 ERA and a WHIP of 0.89, or a guy with allowed 1 home run, 2.76 ERA, and a WHIP of 0.94.
Give me the 4 home run guy, because I know that's Liam Hendriks.
And that's Ryan Presley.
Ryan
That's
Presley.
the closer of the Astros. Like,
Boom.
Ryan Presley wasn't that, like, no one's thinking of him as a top closer in the AL. Maybe after this postseason they might be, but like, Liam Hendriks is better than him, and Ryan Presley is much cheaper than Liam Hendriks. I just think it's like having a Porsche, like exactly the meme you're saying. It's like having a Porsche in the shack of an 81 and 81 team.
Yeah, that was more of a Josh Nelson thing. And I get what you're saying, what Josh is saying. You trade from a position of strength. And Liam would bring back a nice haul. But also, it's going to be, man, it's the 9th inning. It would be good to have Liam Hendriks here while Raylo, while Kendall Graveman are giving up the winning runs or the tying runs. When you got a guy that, for the most part, you know what's going to lock it down, there's no reason to trade him. He is the exception to the rule. Like, I know closers and bullpens are volatile from year to year. Liam's not.
You take that certainty every time. Because I think, Sean, I know what you're doing, right? And you're talking about moving the numbers around to make the value match up with the production, There is some stuff that you can't find on Fangraphs.
That's true.
And they talk about the 9th inning. Every single baseball person you ask will tell you that the 3 hardest outs to get are the very last ones in the 9th inning. And to have a guy who can go out there, and it is absolutely no pressure for him to go out there and dominate the opposing team in the 9th inning with the game on the line, that is something that jacks up the value of that player way more than anything that you're going to see in a stat sheet.
But let's say they go out and into the trade market, and Rick Hahn said that they're going to go and look at it. I mean, if they could go and get a second baseman and a bullpen piece for Liam Hendriks, I just think that would make a lot more sense for the Sox in 2023. Just because
I would have to get more.
You get more on a day-to-day basis.
And JJ, they don't need to trade Liam for Nimmo because Nimmo is a free agent. But no, I would not do that.
Why not?
I mean, because you're going to have to pay Nimmo $23 million.
Yeah, and if you're getting rid of Liam's contract,
you still don't have a closer.
It's actually like $8 million.
And you
like the difference.
And you don't have a closer now.
You have Reynaldo Lopez. Let's first tell you about some of our. We'll continue this discussion. First, this podcast is powered by ComEd. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities we serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lightings and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across our territory. Customers can inquire about how to upgrade outdated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LED lights. Learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device and track your facility's energy usage and more. Incentives have recently increased for outdoor and indoor lighting and network lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than ever before. So visit ComEd.com/poweringbiz, B-I-Z, now to start saving money and energy. To start a project, contact us at 1-855-433-2700 for more information. And for more information, email businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com. And our next partner is FOCO. If you are going to win a Gold Glove with the White Sox, FOCO will make you a bobblehead with them. I love seeing the Dallas Keuchel bobblehead on FOCO.com. Chicago, you've already got the best coverage for your favorite teams, so get fitted in the best sports gear around. FOCO has you covered from Soldier Field to the living room, north or south side, with hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Get decked out like DeMar with apparel from the leaders in sports merch and collectibles. FOCO, F-O-C-O. Looking for the perfect gift for the football fan in your life? FOCO's got you covered with hoodies to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. So when you're out at the tailgate on November 13th, pick up some gear at FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use promo code CHGO for 10% off. All right, let's talk about Reynaldo Lopez and his 2022 year. He was very fantastic. Only allowed one home run or let up only one home run this year. LASIK Reynaldo was a different pitcher. Let's look at the report cards for.
So he was the other guy in the blind resume?
He was the other guy.
Okay.
So he had.
But he's not a closer.
No, not yet.
You present him as such, jerk.
Reynaldo
One of those was a World Series winning closer, and the other guy was like the fourth guy in the White Sox bullpen.
And now I'm getting a text from Alex Rude saying, you're really underestimating Ryan Presley. It was, relax. I'm so sorry to disgrace the name of Ryan Presley. He makes $14 million a year, one less than
the king.
than Liam Hendriks. I'm
Presley,
so sorry.
the king.
Yes.
Mercy. Reynaldo Lopez's report card for the 2022
Ryan
season.
Presley, TCB.
Reynaldo's results: A+, Stuff Command, A-, and overall an A for Reynaldo Lopez. So why don't we trust Reynaldo to be the closer in 2023?
He's never done it before.
Who cares?
I care.
Who cares? They're trying to win the World Series.
Like, I would love to think that the 25th, 26th, and 27th out are just any other outs. I would love to think that because they technically are. But something happens to you. Your mentality has to change. And I don't want Reynaldo Lopez, even though he was a sub-2 FIP guy, to be in the White Sox bullpen training to be a closer at the end of the game while we're supposed to be winning these games. We got to live with the growing pains of a young closer. No, not in contention window. Not at all. I got it. His numbers were great, and he was fantastic. And I think, and I said it years ago, his best role will be as a closer, not on this White Sox team. You don't roll dice on that. You don't do that to him. You don't do that to the team because he's not ready. You do that on the Pittsburgh Pirates when you trade him away. And he goes and is the best closer in baseball. And you say, oh, man, we could have had. But you could have also a disaster where he struggled as a starter. He's thriving right now as a middle to late inning reliever. I don't know if he's going to be a lights out closer on this White Sox team. And I don't want to roll dice on that because we want to trade Liam Hendriks. We already got the guy that we know can lock down games. Keep the bullpen as such.
They say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That applies, but I think more so it's if it ain't broke, don't break it. You know, if you took Liam Hendriks out of that equation at the end of that bullpen, you now need to fix it, and you might have the tools to fix it, but it still needs to be fixed. Don't create more problems for yourself when you're already trying to fix the defense, make everybody a better base runner, and get everybody to start hitting home runs again. There's a lot of items, be it on the free agent market or trade thing, or just to coach these guys up. There's a lot of items on the to-do list for the White Sox this winter. I don't think you need figuring out the back end of the bullpen to be added to that list when it currently is not there.
Yeah, the White Sox in 2022 got 5.3 WAR out of their bullpen, which was the 8th best in the major leagues. And if you look at Reynaldo Lopez in high leverage, his ERA was like 6.17, which was top 40, which is bad. But he was worse than Josh Hader, and we know his struggles in high leverage situations. So maybe he isn't ready for that moment. But again, one home run, and we look at the results there. 2.76 ERA, only one home run allowed, an under one whip, and his stuff was fantastic this year. Had a command plus of over 100, so it was about league average, but his stuff is truly what set him apart. Top 100 in stuff plus, 117 stuff plus, so I would say the command brings him down a little bit, but moving him to the bullpen, increased velocity on his fastball, just became basically unhittable, as you saw from the numbers that he had. And the LASIK clearly helped him see the plate.
And I don't know if you're advocating for this, but give us your reasoning why you think a trade of Liam Hendriks and then putting Reynaldo Lopez as the closer might work for the White Sox.
Because we do 5 shows a week. I'm just trying to think.
I see.
Like,
stir in that pot.
But there is an angle. Like, I think it's an interesting discussion that we're having. Yeah. Liam Hendriks, I think, becomes more valuable with the Edwin Diaz signing. So does it make it even more intriguing? Like, are you moved a little bit from where you were yesterday before the Diaz deal was signed on moving Hendriks? Like, that's more of the discussion here.
Josh Nelson, when he came here, kind of opened my eyes to a couple things. And yes, I kept an open mind about trading Liam Hendriks, but the more I think about it, the more I'm down with that move. If it happens, I would not say, man, you messed up, Rick Hahn, if they got it back a haul. That's what probably Rick Hahn's thinking right now. He's like, I'm not trading Liam Hendriks unless they offer me a deal where they're competing against each other, and then they keep on throwing in great prospects, great major league ready players, and I got to take the deal. Otherwise, yeah, I can't do it. He opened my eyes, and you've opened my eyes up, but I cannot trade Liam Hendriks in good faith unless it's like, man, the White Sox won that trade immediately.
I'll just say that I think the premise of the question is what startles me the most, and it's trading Liam Hendriks, or really any number of players that are currently everyday starters for the White Sox, begs the question, what are you getting back for him? Because when you see those kinds of players get traded, and it applies more to the core guys like Aloy or Robert or TA because of what their contracts look like, what are you getting for him? Usually when a guy like that is traded, you get a bunch of prospects. If the Liam Hendriks return is a bunch of prospects, and you're like, all right, push the button to trade him because you can get something for him, and that something is a bunch of really young guys, that means you don't think the White Sox are competing for a World Series in 2023. Or you don't think they should be competing for a World Series in 2023. Because what you do when you compete for a World Series is you have a damn good closer. And the White Sox have that already. They've completed one of the tasks that you need to complete in order to compete for a World Series. If they were to make that trade, they're moving backwards, in my opinion, when it comes to competing next year. And so if you want them to start planning for 2026, then go ahead and make the move. But if you're talking about competing for one of the next 2 years, you have one of the best closers in baseball. Use that to your advantage to win baseball games.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what if 2022 happens again and you are 81-81 and you just aren't in a position to win ball games, and Liam Hendriks is sitting on the right, but you could have gotten something for him, and I guess you still can during the middle of the season. You could still trade Liam Hendriks at the trade deadline if you still are looking out of contention.
Yeah, and James asked the question, not exactly. Kenley Jansen was let go without a backup going into the season. How'd that turn out? They went and got Craig Kimbrell at the end of the year. They're like, no, Craig Kimbrell sucks. He was terrible. And the Dodgers had a quick exit out of the playoffs. Not because they didn't have a closer, but they struggled closing out games all the time. If they had a more reliable person like Kenley Jansen, they would have been better suited to go farther into the playoffs. I mean, we saw that Alex Rude loves Mr. Presley. He said he went 11 innings without giving up a run. You don't think that is part of the winning formula Houston has to offer out there? When they get a game into the 8th or 9th inning, it's over. And not coming back.
I don't know if this is how it worked out in the playoffs, if the stat line makes it look like that, but what do you 11 games to win the World Series, right? 11 wins, 11 innings pitched. I would imagine he pitched the 9th inning in every game they won. Maybe that's not exactly how it went. Sean, you're talking about, he's only used 3% of the time. Well, he's used in every game you need to win in the playoffs to win the World Series. I mean, that right there has to up that value. I mean, if you're talking about just, you're paying the money to not use them a lot during the regular season. Well, you're using them an awful lot come October.
Right. And the Sox used Liam Hendriks in 3 games in the ALDS, even though, they ended up playing 5. So they used him in 3 of the 5 games that he ended up playing in. Presley this year, got saves in 6 of the 11 games that he was in. Didn't finish all. Well, yeah. I mean, the only game that he pitched in that was a loss was Game 1 of the World Series, where that game ended up going into extra. So, was able to at least close out and get the victory for them in most of those games. Going back to Reynaldo, just because this discussion is about him, the other reason why maybe this
ostensibly
the reason why you could push him again into the closer role is just because that stuff did take a huge jump. I knew I saw some people were mentioning, why not make him the 5th starter again? I don't see the reasoning or the possibility of moving that guy off. Maybe he does still have that stamina. We did know Johnny Cueto and him made that connection, and if Reynaldo Lopez is taking his laps up in the top deck of the stadium, maybe he's building up that stamina. But
he doesn't like to run, though.
Oh, Reynaldo doesn't?
Not a fan.
He's got to get on a horse.
He's even less a fan of that.
Oh, boy. He's screwed.
He's smart.
Sounds like he's definitely staying as a closer.
Doesn't like to run and doesn't like horses. He's like me.
Do we want to rule off Reynaldo starting pitcher completely?
Yes.
If it ain't broke, don't break it.
Yes. He's become exactly what he should be in the major leagues. I said it a couple of years ago. He doesn't have the stamina, the stuff to be a starter. He doesn't develop a third pitch as a starter. He is a closer in the future, and not the White Sox, hopefully, because they don't have the availability to put him in that spot. So yeah, he's going to make a lot of money when he's a free agent as a closer to be. He should stay right here. There's no reason for him or Jimmy Lambert or Garrett Crochet to think about being closer or be a starter again. You've tried it. It's all right. It's fine. Being a reliever will get you $100 million or something in that era. I mean, you got Joe Kelly and Kendall Graveman getting big-time deals, getting money, getting paid. Stay there. That's your role. It's a good role to have. Imagine just pitching 1 inning every couple days, going golfing every other day, not having to worry about scouting reports every 5th. People would depend on you just to come in those games to get your 1 inning out and give it to somebody else. Well,
and I want to go to some of the pictures we have here just to show what Reynaldo did, jumping from a starter to a full-time reliever in 2022. This is the second picture, which is good. Let's stay here, Steven. So here's the second picture. This is 2021, and this is Reynaldo's 4 pitches. And I did see somebody mention that he only has 2 pitches, and you mentioned he needs a third pitch. 2021, he realized that, and mainly was just forcing fastball and slider. And you can see overall 55, slider 55. Those are above average. And then you go to 2022, and you see the fastball jumps up to a 60 overall. And honestly, I think you could make the argument that he could be a starter. I think it depends on where the stamina is for Raylo, but the stuff isn't that bad. I honestly think the biggest thing for Reynaldo was the LASIK. You look at the jump in mile per hour, and it did happen. He went from 95.8 mile per hour average velocity on his fastball up to 97.1 this year. That's a huge jump. But if you look at the numbers on his four-seam fastball, he threw 542 fastballs this year. He threw 543 fastballs last year. Expected slugging, massively down for Reynaldo Lopez. 353 hitters hit this year on his four-seam fastball. Last year it was only 416. The big difference is home runs. He allowed 5 home runs on his four-seam fastball last year, none this year. But you look at the whiff percentage, the put-away percentage, you look at the xWOBA, a lot of the numbers stay the same. I don't know if his stuff diminished that much or if his stuff got that much better moving to the bullpen. I think his eyes being fixed helped him a ton here. So yes, the 2 pitches thing, that's very fair, but his slider and fastball are really, really good. So I could see if he has that stamina that they could give it a shot. Or maybe they move him to a long role. I mean, maybe
Oh no,
they move him.
that's worse.
Okay.
That's much worse. I think in his heart of hearts, yes, you all want to be starters. That's what you train to be. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and you need to just gear down and accept the role that you're currently in. I'm sure that Ronaldo Lopez sees the millions on the starter side and said, hey, I can still do that. But why? You saw what the results were this year. You saw how much better you were. Why change that? As Vinny say, why break something that isn't broken? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we thinking that he's going to be a starter? And we don't got no damn room for Ronaldo Lopez. I think Davis Martin's better than Ronaldo Lopez as a starter. As a starter, yeah.
I mean, Raylo's got
Do
better
you
stuff.
remember Ronaldo Lopez as a starter? Do you remember him?
Yes, and he didn't have
He was
correct
terrible, except
eyesight.
for 2018.
He couldn't see.
Where he was not the worst pitcher in baseball.
Boy.
He had the best stuff on
In
the White Sox.
2019, though.
In 2019, he was the worst pitcher in baseball.
He had that one start against the Twins where he struck out 15. Anyways, we'll see what happens with Ronaldo Lopez this offseason. We'll have more shows to talk about it. Next episode tomorrow, we'll be talking about Luis Robert and his 2022 season. So we won't be talking about trading Luis Robert, but definitely a mysterious season for Luis in 2022. Sure. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. Read his latest article at All CHGO talking about Rick Hahn and his comments about the roster in the most recent press conference when they introduced Pedro Grifol. Not a lot in there, but Vinny parsed through all of the pieces there. And we'll talk about that tomorrow leading off the show as well. Again, follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. Alex, please stop bringing up Ryan Presley. I don't care. My name is Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Go White Sox.